It doesn't look like my iPhone really wanted to broadcast here. So I switched back to my webcam. Hope that's okay. It's a little bit less clear, but okay, at least it won't cut out, right? So yeah, sorry about that. Changed a different camera, changed a different computer. It's not my iPhone. So yeah, I'm back. And you know what? A lot of times when I'm trying to do good things, I'm trying to, perhaps do a talk or trying to meet some students and things like that, go on a trip, something will happen. Things will screw up. I once did, I was supposed to do a digital painting demo, and none of the computers at the school would work that I was at. So I had to explain a digital painting demo with no computer. Things like this happen. Things like this happen, and it happens to the best of us. But the main thing is that, yeah, you probably know what I'm going to say. It's just another test. And these tests are there to tell you, if you stay positive, you keep going, you don't give up, good things will happen. And that's exactly, how I take life. And that's how I, deal with most of the, things that I don't like in life that happen to me. I try to think about it like that. I try to think about it like, this is a test. What's the great thing that's gonna happen? I don't know. Just like in drawing, sometimes the great thing doesn't happen for years because you stink for years in the beginning. But you gotta stay positive, right? As an artist, if you were a little kid and you're drawing something, it doesn't look good in the very beginning, but you stay positive and you keep going. Imagine you didn't. Imagine you gave up when you were 5 years old and you're just like, you know what? I've been trying this for a month. Screw it. Nobody would become artists. It wouldn't, be possible for anybody. So, really it's all about the long term. It's all about the principles that you have when bad things happen. Make sure that they're designed to help you in the long term. Interesting little notes that I wanted to bring up was my co-op student Michelle. She was asking, or we're talking about her art, and she was explaining her goals, for the summer because she has to go back to school. She was explaining her goals, and she was saying, she wanted to finish this many paintings by the end of the summer, this and that. I said to her, those are not long-term goals. You need long-term goals. You're a student right now. You are somewhat sheltered, right? Because that's all you need to concentrate on is school. So during this time, if you want to think long-term, think about how much you're trying, how many exercises are you doing, how often are you, really practicing to learn instead of just practicing to produce or drawing to produce. I explained to her, if you're concentrating on how you're learning and keep trying to adjust it, she's going to do far better, in the long run than if she went the other way and just concentrated on how much she was going to finish by this summer. Your career doesn't finish at the end of the summer. And actually her career hasn't even started. It won't even start at the end of the summer because she still has another year to go. So you see, it's like, gotta think long term. Try to stay away from those jobs where it's like, oh yeah, I could do that real quick. I could do that very simply. It won't be a big deal. if you are starving and you absolutely need the money, then of course you want to take it. But if you're not starving, I'm getting total artist block here, figuring out what to do with these eyes. Maybe I'll put them up here. I'll just scribble them in. But you know, if you aren't starving, then don't take those kind of jobs, because it's not going to help you in the long run. Money is only monetary. Afterwards, after it's gone, then you have to get more. You know, it's like this never-ending thing. But skills are a lot more, you know, forever. A lot more long-term, I should say. Definitely not forever, because, you know, if you don't practice, it could go away. Or a lot of it could go away. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention here was for questions. I'm mentioning this a little bit late, but bit.do/June5-Chiustream will lead you to a Facebook page post where you can you know, post your questions. Okay, so if you have any questions for me, feel free to post them there. And while you're writing in your questions, I'll read a couple of the questions that I saw already. Okay, so first question, let's go to the first question here. What's wrong with my scrolling? Okay, so first question here is by Hal Wayland. I've been looking at new submissions to ArtStation lately, and there's a lot of great artists there. Is there anything special you would do to stand out and grab attention of art directors these days, other than send your artwork to them and share it on social? Well, sharing things socially only gets as far as your network or your network's network. So it doesn't really, a lot of times it doesn't really get as far as if you went to a place like a forum and things like that, where there are actual people there that are already, you know, directors and things like that. You know, ArtStation, I don't know too much about it. I know that Leonard Teo created ArtStation or something like that. I don't know him too well, but definitely seems like a nice guy. What would I put there? Well, I don't know. First, I would look up, or try to look up, the traffic on there and try to determine whether or not, you know, real directors actually look there. Because if they don't, and you're looking for real directors to show your stuff to, then that's not going to really help. You know, try to see how active the community is, how many comments and things like that do people get in certain sections, I guess. For me, the best way to get your art in front of a director is to go to a convention and to constantly post things on the internet. I feel like you need both. Okay, what forums to post on, I don't know, but DeviantArt is, you know, it's sometimes a lot of people have the wrong kind of connotation for DeviantArt, thinking that it's, you know, it's all fan art and all this stuff, and but it is gigantic. That video is so huge that, you know, like, it's definitely worth posting stuff there. And how to attract these people is such a great question, because, like, you know, I live in Toronto, Canada, so I can't just go down the street, get in my car, go to DreamWorks or whatever, and, you know, I don't have that much of a connection as if I lived down there. It'd be much easier for me. But that was great in the beginning because, and it's great now, but especially in the beginning because then I had to hone my skills to like how to grab people's attention with your art. You know, especially how to target kind of like the movie industry. There's a big difference between the movie industry and the gaming industry, in my opinion. You know, with designs, things like that. Movie industry is very much, you know, live action anyways, is far more realistic. You know, the gear that they wear and things like that. It has to be very, very functional. But then gaming, it's different because you're using these little characters, and a lot of times, you know, you might see close-ups, but a lot of times you're looking at these characters from further away, which means they're all long shots. You know, so if I was going to design a character for a film where the character is all in long shots, it's very much about their silhouette. It's very much about bigger descriptions that you can see from further away. And a lot of times that doesn't work for live action films. So if you're trying to get into live action, you know, long answer to a short question, think about that. Make things more functional. Make things more kind of realistic so that if it was on screen, would it still look awesome or would it look cheesy? A lot of times, believe it or not, a lot of times a great painting, a great concept looks great, but once you actually build it and you put it into a live action movie, a lot of times it'll look horrible. And vice versa. A lot of times it might not look that cool, you know, when you're drawing it. But you put that on the big screen, you put it with actors and all this other stuff, and it's a wonderful, wonderful look. Really, really interesting. You know, so try to take your art and imagine it on the big screen. That's not for me. It's just an ambulance outside, if you could hear that siren. My studio is near a hospital, so sometimes we get the ambulance coming by. But yeah, another thing I would suggest is, who would your ultimate director be? Who would the ultimate director that you would love to work with, who would that be? Because believe it or not, before I started working for Tim Burton on, you know, Alice in Wonderland, I was thinking exactly that. I was thinking I would love to work on a Tim Burton movie. I would love to work on a Tim Burton movie. Now, how does that help? Well, when I started painting things, I started thinking, could I see this in a Tim Burton movie? Not in a movie that's already done. A movie that he hasn't done yet. You know, so you have to really think. You know, not some E.T. fan art for Steven Spielberg, but what other kind of films would Steven Spielberg do? And start just doing it. Because if you do it well, if you've collected enough knowledge and painting skills and all this stuff, if you do it well, it's a no-brainer for people like that. They can just look at your art and go, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense for what I'm doing. So, you know, if I hire that person, I'm just going to ask them to keep going and do the things that they do, and it's going to turn out great. But if they look at your stuff and maybe it's cartoony, and then you're thinking, oh, I want it to be more serious, nobody's going to give you a serious job. Not nearly as easily, because that's not what you're displaying. Best thing about the internet is that we don't have to wait for jobs to start working on our dream jobs and for people to notice. You can just start working on it. You can just think of, what kind of movie would I love to work on? What kind of game would I love to work on? And just start doing it. And just put it online. It doesn't have to be like a whole entire game. You don't have to do turnarounds and everything like that. You can make just a one-off great piece of art that really embodies the essence of whatever it is that you're pretending to work on. And that's good enough, and then you move on and do another one. I think the biggest thing that people that gets you through the door first is just looking at your stuff, seeing that there's passion in what you do. You know, to get to the bigger jobs, it's really, really good to show that you're a passionate person about something. You know, that's the kind of people that people like to work with. And after that, I think the next thing is all about communication. You know, once they're willing to actually start communicating with you, how do you kind of seal the deal? You need to get your personality across so that they can tell what kind of person you are. Like, you know, still in a polite way, but in a realistic kind of manner, so that they can really feel that you're a real person. This is the type of person you are. Why is that important? Because people need to work with you. People don't like to work with people that they don't get along with, right? And especially if they're in a position where they're choosing, well, they're not going to choose people that they don't think will be a good fit, right? So personality is actually a huge one that people don't usually talk about in school, which is disappointing, to say the least. It's very disappointing because it might be mentioned a couple times, but people don't have classes on it. People don't have, you know, larger discussions on it, practice about it. It's a shame. It's a real shame. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. Nicholas asks, I've always had a pretty bad memory, and I believe memory is very important for an artist. Are there any tips to improve your visual memory, or have you ever encountered this kind of problem? You know, what I read before, I forget when this was. I'm guessing it was 1800s or earlier, where people practiced training their brains, you know, training their brains for things like mega memory, where you can, you know, memorize every card in a deck of cards, every, you know, card in order. I've also seen cab drivers in places like London, England, where they memorize every street in London. I can tell them, yeah, just I like to go to, you know, 21 whatever street, and it might be the smallest street, and they totally know where it is, how to get there. Now it's either, you know, all these cab drivers have super amazing memory, incredible, way above average memory, and they all decide to become cab drivers, or they train themselves to have a better memory. Obviously, the logical explanation is that they train themselves to have better memories. Well, that is proof that, you know, you don't have to have great memory to develop, you know, a great memory. It's not a thing that you're just born with. It's something that you can develop. And people used to develop their memories all the time, you know, before, when they needed it a lot more, when you didn't have all this stuff, emails and internet and all these little gadgets and things like that to help you not have to remember a thing. Right? So how do you practice your visual memory? Look at something, right? Literally look at something, do your best to try to memorize the whole entire thing, then put it away, then put it out of your sight, cover it up, whatever you're going to do, and then try to draw it from your memory. Now, of course, if you're saying that you have bad memory, then maybe you probably do. Who knows? And it might not turn out well in the beginning. But just like when you're a little child and you're drawing the most horrible drawings ever, keep going. Because things will change. And one day, you know, you're going to be like, wow, I'm really starting to remember a lot of things now. And you're going to find easier and easier ways. It's all, you know, these things are all different little muscles in your brain that you can have improved over time. Such a wonderful thing, right? Okay. Anastasia. If a person knows and understands a topic of art, for example, anatomy or perspective, and that person can see mistakes on other people's work, but can't actually draw this himself or herself, does this mean that he or she would not be able to teach people well in this topic? Is it necessary to be able to draw like masters for teaching people, or can you just be good in theory and that's good enough? Anastasia, that's such a good question. I don't know if you're a teacher or not, but that is such an interesting and good question. My own philosophies on it, and again, all this stuff, you know, I tell you guys this stuff not because it's the be-all end-all. It's just because, you know, when I started, I would have loved to ask people their opinions of these things and what has helped them, and, you know, what do they think I should do or avoid and things like that. This is my way of trying to, you know, have that for other people out there now that are just starting off now. So to answer your question, I would say that, you know, you need to teach it well, you need to be able to do it. If you want to teach something well, you need to be able to do it. Does that mean that you need to have master levels? Well, you know, most great artists can't even tell you what master level is because they have no idea. Do I think I'm master level at anything? No. Did I win a master, you know, award before? Yes. Do I feel like I'm a master? Heck no. I'll tell you something else. Very honestly, half the time, well, it's a lot less nowadays, but for a good bunch of years, I always felt like I was a fraud. I always felt like I somehow snuck into the movie industry. I somehow got into, you know, snuck into these different jobs and things like that. And they just don't know. You know, they just don't know that I'm not qualified. Now, the thing is, a lot of people think that. When they're doing things like really high-level jobs, a lot of times people will think that and think, oh, they just don't know that they made a mistake, you know? They don't know that I'm not smart enough, that I'm not good enough, that whatever. And I've read about that with people in like really good schools, like Harvard. A lot of people thinking that they just somehow got in out of an error. I've heard J.K. Rowling say that about Harry Potter, about her being a writer and that she felt like a fraud. You know, so it's something that's very common. So yeah, I don't know if anybody truly feels like they're at master level, because if they do, you know, that kind of says a bit about how they think about themselves. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying. You know, it's something. It's an observation. Yeah, You know what? Big shout outs to all the old in-house workshop students. I see you guys on there. Um, you know, it's always super nice to see old familiar names and friends on there. Okay, so let's go to another question now. Can you share what your morning ritual is like when you first wake up in the morning to mentally get ready for the day? Getting ready for the day happens the day before. Okay, and I would suggest the same. Before the end of your day. So anytime during today, prepare for tomorrow. And go through all the things that you plan on doing tomorrow and then put priorities on them. So that when you come in tomorrow, you're just going to start going down the list one by one until they're all done. You'd be so surprised on how much effort and time it takes to just schedule your day. Half the time we're just staring at our screens just going, what should we do now? Okay, so preparation for your day, I say start it the day before, the night before. That's the best way to prepare. So, you know, in the morning I get up. I usually, right now I'm kind of, well, I am injured again. I don't know, I get spasms in my neck right now and my trapezius muscles. But, you know, just means great things are going to happen. So before, what I would do is I would get up. I would, I have a lot of rituals. I don't know if you guys want to hear them all, but I believe attaching routine stuff that you do alone to thoughts, questions that you want answered. So things like washing my face, I would attach a thought. When I wash my face, I think about energy. So I attach a thought of I'm getting energized, I'm feeling awake, I'm feeling good, you know, so that's what I attach with washing my face. Then there's brushing my teeth, and I'll think about when I speak to people, I need to be honest and genuine, and I picture really making a positive change in their lives, right? Really affecting them in a positive way. And I'll do all these little rituals, right? So I'll go through my morning routine and just getting ready, and each one you attach a different thought or a different problem that you might, like, say you're thinking, how do I get into the movie industry? Every time you eat breakfast alone, think about that. You know, if you have just one huge goal, attach every routine thing that you do to that goal. So that when you brush your teeth, you're thinking about the movie industry. When you're washing your face, you're picturing you're in the movie industry. When you are taking a shower, you're picturing how did you get into the movie industry. Okay, so normally if everything's working good, then after that I go and exercise. And after that I go to the jacuzzi and the sauna, and I'll sit there in a relaxed state and think about my day and run through it, you know, everything that I'm going to do. And I will think about the attitude that I will have while doing this stuff. And if I have a lot of time, I'm really good for concentrating on some stuff, then I would start to think about, I would imagine hiccups down the road, you know, perhaps bad things or obstacles that get in the way. Okay, and then I would imagine myself approaching that problem or that situation in a good way. You know, I'll try to do that constantly. I get into work and just start going down my list. At the end of, before the end of the day, I write the list for my next day. That's pretty much the routine. James Daniel. If I wanted to make an online portfolio, do you think I should include my real name in the URL, or should I make up a username instead? I found that most combinations of my real name are already in use by others, but a username URL could be harder for people to remember. Yeah, so you're thinking of a website name. Definitely, you know, James Daniel Art. That's the first thing I would look up, but I'm assuming that that's already taken. So if you use just a name that you make up, just make sure that it's easily memorable. Okay. Try to stick two normal words together, like red beetle or something like that. You know, something that, of course, that is a bad name for an art site, perhaps, but it's just something that people can really remember easily. I always felt like it's better to use your real name if you can. You know, at conventions, I remember this one person came along, was talking to me like he really knew me, right? He's talking to me, and I'm not too sure who this person is. You know, he said his name is, I think is Matthew or something, and then I'm like, okay, cool. And then he started to say some things that is like a lot more kind of familiar, and then I say, well, how do you know, where did you hear about me? What, you know? And he's like, what do you mean? I've been talking to you online for a super long time. I said, my name, you know, it's Matthew, but my, you know, username is something like Orange Octopus, right? And I was just like, oh, you're Orange Octopus. I remember, oh, person in France, Black Frog, amazing artist, right? I meet him, and I meet him, the person. I don't really get it yet, and then somebody tells me that's Black Frog, and then I'm, oh, so that's why I think it's, you know, it's just a lot easier if you use your real name. People meet you, they can go, oh, that's who you are. It's kind of weird when you go, yeah, my name is so and so. Online, I'm known as. You know, like, I don't know if society has really caught up to that kind of a introduction yet, where people would state their name and then their username. I'm sure it's only a matter of time. Okay. So let's see here. If you got a chance to work on an animated TV show, which would it be? Game of Thrones? Oh, shoot, animation. Animated TV show? I would work on the intro to Game of Thrones. Because it's animated. But I guess if I had to pick one, you know, Korra, the Legend of Korra, Avatar, the Legend of Korra, that would be awesome. I really respect the guys at Nickelodeon, the people at Nickelodeon, to do the Avatar series. So good. So there you go. Barbara Ross, how can we be optimistic all the time? I mean, it's really difficult to stay positive when you see your drawings and you know where do you want to arrive, but you can't. And you can't once, twice, you know, you keep going, but sometimes you feel a little bit lost. Wow, some really great questions today. It's not about if you're doing good or bad. What do you believe in? Okay? What do you believe in, Barbara? And what I mean by this is, do you believe that you're a person, that you want to be a person that is optimistic? Do you believe that you're a person that is an optimistic person? You know, you want to be an optimistic person that tries really hard. A person that can keep going. You know, these are the things that you want to concentrate on. What do you believe in? The type of person that you believe in. Especially when you have every reason to not be that person right now. Every reason. Perhaps something really bad happens, or, you know, heaven forbid. But when those kind of situations happen, if you can remember to go back to, what do I believe in? What does Barbara believe in? Who is Barbara? You know? Then you can hang on to that. And it'll bring you back to the kind of person, the kind of optimistic person that you want to be. It's all a test. You know? And even if it isn't a test, because, you know, even myself, you tell me life is a test and you'll get a reward after every time you know, pass. You know, that could sound like a big load of mumbo jumbo, but the thing is, it doesn't matter, because if you're doing that, if you just choose to believe, then you're working harder, you're doing more, you're more optimistic, you're more positive. So, you know, it doesn't really matter if it's not totally true. What actually happens is, because you believe it's true, then it becomes true. And even if it isn't totally true and you try all your life, and somehow, you know, you didn't get to your top dream, you probably got super far, and it still doesn't matter, because I would rather live a life where I'm trying instead of a life where I gave up and I reduced my goals to something that wasn't my goal. You know, I just compromised my life to bring my goals down. I would rather fail and try my whole life, you know, put in effort, than to sit there and wait for, you know, my inevitable end to my life, right? Without truly trying. Not everybody has, you know, I don't think anybody really has had success without failures. Stay positive. Think about the person that you want to be. What is the type of person that you want to be? Instead of thinking, man, you know, this happened. Oh, my skills, they're not so good, you know. Oh, I'm trying, it's just not coming out. That stuff doesn't matter at all. What matters is, how much did you try? What kind of attitude do you have? Okay? Really good question. I read recently that finding work in Canada for foreigners is harder than ever. That each city is being very protective of their main work sources, and that even someone who lives in Canada would find it very hard to find a job in another city. Have you experienced any indication that this is true in the art, animation industry, film industry? I think it really depends. it really depends on the type of job that you want. For me, the jobs that I want are the jobs that are more creative, I guess. Even though, you know, art is art, animator jobs are super creative, storyboarding jobs, super creative, all the way down the line, lighting, compositing, everything is quite creative. However, if you're in a job where there's a lot of you and you're all kind of doing the same thing and the level of difficulty is not that good, then I kind of think it's harder to maintain jobs like that than it is to maintain jobs like the ones that I do, where it's more like there's only 3 character designers, there's only 1 character designer or whatever, and you're the guy. I kind of feel like those kind of jobs are easier to maintain because you can stand out a lot more. And it's not you standing out, it's your ideas that stand out. And when your ideas stand out, there's no substitution. If they think Billy's ideas are great, right? They can't hire, you know, Julie to give you a Billy idea. Right? They can do that, but it won't be the exact same. They can't hire somebody else that, you know, can do, maybe they can do my style. They can't hire somebody else to do that and come up with a great creature that is like a Bobby Chiu creature. Because it's the idea that makes it so special. And when your ideas are good ideas, then people open the doors even when they're not looking for, you know, to hire anybody. So my main thing is, you know, figure out how to become more and more special, whatever it is that you're doing. That's how you get the better jobs, and that's how you'll become more in demand. You know, is there less jobs right now in Canada? Is it harder to get a job in Canada? Maybe. I don't, you know what? Those kind of jobs, I don't really look for those kind of jobs. But I believe that we're in a time where it's like the best time for artists in general. You know, because we can reach so many people now when before we couldn't. And there's a lot of things that you can do by yourself that you don't have to wait for somebody to hire you to start being productive. You can start doing something else, create your own book or whatever, you know, app, ebook. There's many different ways to go about getting your stuff out there and start, you know, trying to generate money yourself. Okay, you were talking about what a shame it is that there's no personality classes in art school, that we're not taught how to do that. Could you elaborate? What would you learn in a personality class? Do you have any tips on how to better yourself personality-wise to make sure art directors like what they see? Well, you know, that's another really good question. You know, before I used to think, well, I don't have a personality. You know, like, nobody's gonna like my personality. Nothing's interesting about me. But I feel like there's kind of 2 sides to that. So one side, yeah, that's probably true. The other side about that is, yeah, there is interesting stuff about you. Perhaps it's not fully developed yet because you're so wrapped up in the non-interesting things about you, and you help to strengthen those things even more. Right? So you need to start developing your personality. It's not developing a new personality, but it's honing into things that you are interested in that are actually, you know, interesting, instead of very mundane things. The other thing is, huge thing is that practice thinking about what you're saying, how you're being, through the eyes of the viewer, through the eyes of the person that you're communicating with. That's a huge one. So many times we do not do that. For example, imagine that you are the person in charge. Imagine that you are the person hiring, right? And you're going to be paying me out of your pocket. This is your company, okay? Now, if I say to you, hi, you know, I was just wondering how I could, you know, get hired at your company. I would really, really appreciate a chance. You know, I would be so eager to learn everything you want to teach me. Now, all those things sound great in my mind because I'm the one that's saying it. But in your mind, if you truly, truly put yourself in an employer's point of view, what did I just tell you? I said, I really want you to hire me, right? So I really want you to give me money. And when you give me money, I'm going to really appreciate it. Big deal. And then I'm going to learn as much as I can from you. Okay, big deal. You know, none of these things would help the person that you're talking to. Tell them, you know, why it's important to them, not you. You can say why it's important to you, but don't forget to mention why is it important to them, though, because that's going to be the main thing here. That's why they would want to, you know, hire you. There's so many things about personality, you know, about things like if you're dealing with, or not even personality, but just interaction with people. You know, if you give a limp handshake, like it's a wet noodle, that's not good. It's very strange when you shake a person's hand, and, you know, of course, if you shake a man's hand, that's even worse because a man generally has a firmer handshake. And if it's a super limp noodle, like it just has no effort, no firmness to it, it's weird. And people can get turned off. They don't need to be turned off by many things to be just turned off enough to not want to hire you. Of course, I've shaken people's hands where they almost ripped off my arm, crushed my hand. It's like, what are you trying to prove there? Are you afraid that my hand is going to escape from yours? You know, think about it and, you know, shake with the right amount of firmness. Now, this is so basic, but so many people still, you know, I see those mistakes from so many different people. When you talk to somebody and you want their advice, listen to their advice. A lot of times when somebody maybe shows a client some piece of art that they did for them and the client might not like it, then what do? A lot of times we tend to tell people, or, you know, beginners would tell people, oh yeah, that's because of this. You know, that's because of that. Oh, that's a older idea. This is the newer idea. It's like, just listen. This happens so much more when it's students too, especially when they're showing your your portfolio, their portfolio, they want to get some advice. A lot of times the students that will turn professionals off are the ones that go, yeah, can I show you my stuff? And you say yes, and then you start looking through the stuff and you want to give them tips because they're asking for tips, and you go, well, the composition in this one, you know, it's not too hot. And you're like, oh yeah, I rushed it. I rushed it. This whole portfolio, I rushed it. It was just last night. You know, it's like, don't give me those excuses. That's another very basic, like, kind of personality communication kind of thing, because from the other person's point of view, they're thinking, well, okay, well, why are you showing me this? Or why are you making up all these excuses? Who is your biggest inspiration in the industry? I'd have to think about that. Only because I have so many people that I admire. But it's all for different things. I don't try to look for one person. You know, I try to look for different aspects of different people that I admire. So I might not admire 90% of this other, this one person's being, how the person is and stuff, but still that will not stop me from admiring 10% of what they do. I wouldn't really look for a full-out role model because nobody's perfect. I would Frankenstein my own. So who are my biggest inspirations? Like plural? There'd be a lot. A lot of them I'll try to interview. So if you look on schoolism.com, you'll find all sorts of interviews there of all these people that I admire. And it's all for free. So, you know, those interviews are like conversations that I have had before or that I could just have anyways, but I, put them on there for you guys. Okay, so I want to mention that there is still this contest being held by Autodesk Express or Sketchbook Express, where the prize, we're giving away $2,000 worth of Schoolism classes to a few people. You have to be under a certain age. I'm not the one organizing the contest, so I forget, but I think it's like maybe 24. The other thing I want to mention is not June 5th. I'm sorry. It's called it's called TAFE. It's the Toronto Animation Arts Festival International. So that's happening the 14th and 15th, where you'll see me there, you'll see Steven Silver there. So if you're in the Toronto area, come on out. Come on out and mingle and, work on your communication skills, right? And it's also a good networking experience as well, I hope. So that's June 14th, 15th. The other thing I want to mention was June 26th and 28th, we're going to Singapore. What's up, Asia? Right on. So that's going to be great. Never been to Singapore before. And yeah, that's going to be super fun. That's going to happen 26th to 28th. You can find out more info at startevent.sg for that. Yeah, so let's give this drawing away, okay? So I'm just going to choose somebody randomly from the shares. So that's how you win this drawing here. You just share the link that I attached. Okay, so Clarissa. I'm gonna write your name down over here. Oops. SP Spinello. Okay, Clarissa Spinello, you've just won this drawing here that that I did live for you guys, and you know, it's all about sending out positive vibes. So I hope you will enjoy the drawing, and I hope everybody out there enjoyed the broadcast. It was great talking with everybody and just, you know, sharing some experiences, sharing some stories, sharing some advice. I hope it helped, and hope to see you guys again next weekend, or sorry, next Thursday, same time. Okay, same time, same live stream channel, so look out for it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So stay positive, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, take care, everybody.